Matt McKenzie, Roechling Plastics. How you doing?
Doing all right.
Thanks for joining me today. Uh, basically, why don't you just give me a roundabout? Who are you? Where are you from? How'd you get into the plastics industry? I met you a number of years back, so I'm excited to have you on. And how'd you get going in this?
Yeah. So it's probably an unusual story, I would say, but so I actually I was a high school English teacher before this, and ironically, I played softball with a couple of the guys I taught with, and one of the members of our team was who became my future boss, and Paul Krozik. So we were playing ball, and uh, he had often asked me about coming to work for the company. And at that time, I was probably as naive as a lot of people are as far as what the plastic industry really is. And I wasn't fully interested at the moment. But some financial realities of being a teacher in North Carolina certainly hit at the right times. And so I sought out to talk to Paul a little bit more about the opportunity. And quite honestly, it was a really good time for the company. At that moment, we were in the process of acquiring a company called Sim Plastics up in Canada, which is now Roechling Canada,
Yeah,
and so I could see some growth opportunities within the company, and certainly it intrigued me. So I made the leap of faith to join the company back in 2007, and started out as an inside salesperson. And a few other things kind of fell into my lap with a merger with our mechanical side of the business, Sustaplast. And I could see obviously the benefits and the growth that our company was looking to achieve, and those opportunities kind of worked out well for me to kind of grow into an outside sales role in the Upper Midwest. And then as time went on, I certainly had my sights set on trying to see if I could achieve the position that my boss Paul Krozik had when he would retire, and I was lucky enough to get that opportunity here about 2 years ago, and here I am.
yeah,
So
man.
it's kind of probably a different path than most, but certainly it's certainly not something I look back on and have any regrets about taking that opportunity.
Yeah, man. I met you. I don't even know how many years. Was it like 5 years ago now?
Yeah, something about that. Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, so that's crazy, man. You were starting out, you were kind of like an outside sales guy, and it's like this guy's going places. There's no way he's staying where he's at. So that's crazy,
Words,
man.
bad words.
Yeah. Well, we've been working together a long time, so it's nice to see that you're moving up in the world. So that's good. So you work with Roechling Plastics, and I know I've done business with you guys. We switched suppliers. I didn't say this at the beginning, but I work for Aeromat Plastics, and we're a distributor, and we made the switch from another supplier to you guys. Probably what has to be 3, 4 years ago now. It's been a really, really good experience for us. So, I mean, why don't you talk a little bit about what Roechling Plastics is in the first place and what it is that you guys make?
Yeah, so Roechling Industrial is we're a global company. We have three different divisions. It would be industrial, which is what we cover, automotive, and medical. And about 50% of our overall business would be industrial, and the majority of the other 50% is automotive. So we've got, as far as the industrial side of it, 91 locations in 25 different countries. So we have a large global footprint as far as that's concerned. But yeah, we've got an extreme breadth of product, which in times like this is extremely beneficial for us.
Yeah.
So we're manufacturing UHMW, high density polypropylene, and when I started in with Roechling, those were the three primary product groups that we had.
Right.
And I distinctly remember talking to one of my colleagues, Brian Pizzini, about a year and a half into working with Roechling, and saying, man, I'm glad we don't have all these other products. I finally understand all these different products that we have now, and the different properties. I finally got it. I'm glad we don't have all these other ones. And I'd say probably about 2 weeks after that is when they mentioned that we were going to merge with our sister company Sustaplast to have the full breadth of products that we currently have. And quite honestly, I think I'd be bored if I was only selling the UHMW high density polypros these days. I like the opportunities that having the full breadth of products that we have gives us. But certainly in times like this, when certain markets and certain industries can take hits more than others, the diversity of products that we have and the industries that we serve certainly help us get through tough times like this much better than many others, for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. How are you guys handling COVID? What are you seeing out there? I mean, I've seen a lot of ventilator parts and guards and things like that that are coming through that people need made out of plastic. It almost seemed like initially it was a huge boom. It just started out kind of crazy. You thought everything was going to go flat immediately, and it was like, no, it went crazy for a while.
Yeah.
And it seems like it's maybe slowed down a little bit, but now that people are starting to get back to work, we're starting to see a little bit more of the guarding and that type of stuff come back. What have you guys seen as far as like your products? Where are people using them, and sort of like what's been the course of COVID for you guys?
Yeah, so it's obviously been extremely interesting. We haven't enjoyed any of the see-through side of it. That's not part of our business.
Right.
And obviously, that business is booming with I know lead times from those resin suppliers and manufacturers up to 16 to 20 weeks at this point. And we have seen a lot of distributors really put their primary focus on those see-throughs because it was so high in volume and
Right.
really going gangbuster. But we really wanted to make sure that the market understood and focused that on the mechanical side of things as well, and the products that we serve, because there was no specific downturn in that product group per se.
Hmm.
There was absolutely some need for a lot of that product. Again, a lot of the Seatles and Delrin products going into ventilator parts and components as well as nylons. Um, High density products going into different dividers, quarantine hallways, unfortunately body boards. So the need for our products has continued to remain out there. It's just a matter of who's going to focus on getting those products into the market and at the right time. We have a product that we manufacture up in Canada that we don't manufacture anywhere else globally, and it's a printable polyethylene. And that actually initially started when it was some plastics for the notebook covers that go into your school agendas and things along those lines. But a couple of our sales guys and driven more by a younger sales guy that we have up there had the idea of presenting this product as potentially being used as the headbands for the PPE face
Oh,
shields.
right.
And with the idea that, hey, save your clear plastic for the face shield and utilize our PE to print material for the adjustable headbands.
Hmm.
And ironically, that idea went from an idea to the first two truckloads of that material shipping out for that application within a week. And we've already sent out over 9 truckloads of that material for that particular application, and it continues to grow. So we like to look at this situation, even though it's not ideal, as presenting us with some opportunities and understanding of different applications for our products that really previously hadn't been thought of before. So I will say, in addition to that, I mean, a lot of the inquiries that we were getting, excuse me, initially for a lot of these ventilator parts, they were of massive scale. You have 100,000 parts or 30,000 units that need to be made to
Right.
utilize this much material. And so those bids were out there, and they were coming from every which way that we could see. And we have seen that those volumes have certainly dropped off considerably.
Hmm.
Some of those projects we did not even see come to fruition per se, or at least in the sizes that we thought they would come to fruition in, and they would go to a different size. So, but the volume has certainly diminished to a point where it's not quite as astronomically high as what it was on these initial bids. And I think a lot of that that goes into play with the fact that the curve is flattening, which is a good thing. But we do see that demand, or that immediate demand that was put on those products, has certainly subsided a bit.
Yeah, no question. Yeah, it's kind of been a wild ride for us too. Just you don't know what people are going to want and when they're going to want it. Out of nowhere, all of a sudden, it's like they want a million quoted of one thing, and then you don't hear from them again, and all of a sudden they need a million of a different thing. So it's been strange. But where have you seen yours used most? I mean, outside of just the headband thing, I worked with you on some ventilator parts and stuff like that. But what are some other places people could be looking to use products that you make or thermoplastics in general as we start to come back online? We talk about printable polyethylenes, and there's a lot of applications for that outside of headbands, obviously. But you guys do a lot of UHMW that are going into food packaging plants, acetyls, things like that. So, I mean, like, what would if you had a message to tell people, because there are going to be people that see this, like where can we be using plastics to either create a safer environment or more efficient environment as we start to come back online here?
Yeah, so what we've definitely seen for the most part, as far as industries that do seem to have an uptick at this point, would be the food processing and packaging industry, as well as the conveyor industry. Um, as you probably well know, I know my wife has a different Amazon package coming to the house. I say package; it's mostly packages
Yeah.
coming to the house on a regular basis. But as people are unable to get out or concerned about getting out within the public to do their normal shopping, there's obviously been an extreme uptick in that. So when we look at these, what we call like intralogistics opportunities out there for the Amazons, the FedExes, the UPSs of the world, that business is absolutely growing and continues to expand. It was already doing so, but in the situation that we're dealing with now, for sure that is absolutely growing and using a lot of products, primarily though UHMW materials. But as far as food processing is concerned, the one thing I will say is, it can be concerning, and I think we're going to obviously see some of the prices of meats and produce go up because of some of the shutdowns that are happening there. But what we have noticed is that some of these projects that we've had for businesses going into the food processing and packaging areas, with some of these shutdowns that they're having, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're completely not looking or utilizing our products at this point. What we've actually seen is that a number of these places are actually pulling in some of the blanket orders and releases that they've had extended out throughout the year and trying to pull them in a little bit quicker because they'll utilize this downtime to go ahead and change out the parts, possibly prematurely from where they need to be changed out, just so that they're ready to crank everything up and not have to worry about having to change parts out a month after they get things going again in full blast. So
Right.
so we've definitely seen those opportunities for sure. The one area that it's unknown at this point, but as we look at the economy and ways of trying to bolster the economy and getting some more jobs, the jobs reports obviously right now don't look very good. The potential of a stimulus package for transportation and infrastructure aspects could certainly create a boom in some of our transportation products. Again, some high densities and UHMWs for truck bed liners and mud flaps that we're manufacturing. And so we don't 100% know if that will go through, but that's certainly something that we can see happening in the future to kind of bolster the economy a bit, to give us a good headwind moving forward and try to get the economy back on track.
Right on. Right on. So, you and I have worked together a lot with those UHMWs and stuff like that, and those are going into obviously trucking lines, packing places, but you have also a lot of special grade UHMWs. I just remember back, I think it's maybe one of the first times you and I went on a call together. We went out to, I think it was a machine building company,
Mm-hmm.
and there was an interesting opportunity there where they used to use oil-filled UHMW. I think you guys make an oil-filled UHMW,
Mm-hmm.
but we swapped that out to your Lube XC product. And man,
Correct.
that's been great for us. I mean, I've switched over a lot of people over to that, and I think that those are the types of products that are going to see a boom here as we go through a lot of this food processing, downtime. People, like you say, kind of re-updating their parts and stuff like that, and the opportunity to get in and maybe spec a better product that's similarly priced. I think anyone's looking at anything that they can do to optimize sort of their operations as well as their costs and things like that. And those types of specialty materials, I think, are kind of key in getting that done. So, what is your most commonly used material? What say like a Lubex, is that a real common one that you're using that to spec out oil filled UHMW? And then maybe what are some other ones? Maybe little tips or tricks for people like me or people that are out there looking. What are some materials that you're seeing replaced most commonly with some maybe higher grade versions?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So the Lubex obviously has been a very nice success story for us. It was a product that we rolled out here in the U.S. Back in 2012. And as a salesperson, it's always nice that when you go pitch a product, it performs to the levels that you've been presenting as a salesperson. And Lubex has absolutely done that across the board. It lowers the coefficient of friction of standard UHMW by up to 75%, depending on the slotting partners. And yes, we were focused on finding business that another product, No Less, was typically used in for the conveyor products, and it's a very good product out there, but it had been very difficult to get. And we wanted to make sure that us as a manufacturer would be able to build a stocking program on that product for ease of availability, as well as the benefits that it would have over the other products. And oil filled materials worked well for those applications, but the reality was it's extremely messy to deal with. And the whole aspect of the oil leaching out is to lower the coefficient of friction. But in doing so, the oil also attracts dirt and debris, and actually is detrimental to gaining that effect. Not to mention it does cause some premature wear on the parts as they run over one another. With the dry package that we have in Lubex, you don't have to have that concern of, one, the product ever leaching out completely because it's blended all the way through the product, and two, it's not going to have the sticking issues with the contaminants that are in every environment. It's inevitable that they'll be there. So it's given those benefits, and like I say, it's proven to do everything that not only our testing but external testing has shown the product to do, and we've had a lot of success, and it's grown as our product, and sales every year have continued to grow considerably, as well as our SKUs on that product group, to make sure that we have the inventory available for the customer base that needs it. But so that's one thing. But obviously, keeping with some food packaging and food processing aspects, our metal and X-ray detectable products are certainly another niche product that we have.
Right.
There are some others out there that present some products that they have that can do both, but we've certainly found that there are some deficits to their products that our products, having just one metal detectable and one acetyl or X-ray detectable material, certainly gives some benefits of maintaining some physical properties that they expect from the product that they're buying. So we have those products available in UHMW and acetyl, and then X-ray detectable. We also have a peak version of that as well for some of the higher temp
How does
applications.
that work? How are they metal detectable? Or I've always
So
been
it,
curious about that. I know that there's been like a visual one when they always went to blues. That was sort of the thing, is everyone had blues so you could visually inspect it. And then there's metal detectable, and it's like, well, how does this all work? What's the special sauce that makes that possible?
Yeah, we can't share the special sauce. Like a chef, we can't share the recipe completely, but ultimately, what we're doing is we're blending the specific additives into these particular products, and what that blending of that additive will allow them to do, not only with the blue color that we have these materials made for, because that's primarily preferred by the food industry, but in addition to that, what these additives allow them to do is find a particle size that is 3 millimeters in size or larger, within their existing testing parameters on their X-ray or metal detectable machines. So the typical FDA regulations require about a 7 millimeter particle to be identified and picked up. So you can pretty much rest assured about half of that can be found within the products that we're offering in the market, should anything break. And that's one of the things that we'd heard for years, is obviously our jobs in the plastic industry is to try to convert metal to plastic in the right applications where it makes sense.
Hmm.
But the reality is, if it does break or chip off, it was not able to be found within their existing detection systems, not easily, let's say. These products allow them to do that without really having to modify the sensitivity levels that they have within their existing detection system. So they're very unique products. By no means are they going to be the product that you sell in truckloads. They should be the door to the avenue to open some doors to have these conversations with these food processors, to get that product in there, but also open the door for you to pitch the bread and butter products like standard UHMW and high density and the acetyls that are often used in these same applications. Because we're certainly not trying to upsell someone on using this product everywhere they're using these other products, these
Right.
UHMWs or acetyls, but in the right areas where there are contamination possibilities or in direct food contact, those areas that we want to pitch that product being used for sure.
Without a doubt. Yeah, and I think that the last time you were in, or maybe it was the last time one of your sales reps was in, you guys were talking about you did a massive expansion. You guys are out of North Carolina, right?
Yes.
So is that expansion done?
This page is not done yet, but it is in the process. There might be a little bit of hold given the COVID situation,
Sure.
but we don't expect it to delay it too much longer. But yeah, we are going to be expanding our building by about 75,000 square feet.
That's awesome.
And it's already 160,000 square feet at this location. We also have another location literally across the street from us, here where our UHMW plant, that's also roughly about 160,000 square feet.
That's amazing. So what do you guys got? How are you making this stuff? I mean, as far as like, obviously you do it at scale. You're a pretty big supplier. I'd known you, Roechling, for many, many years, obviously, but primarily as a UHMW supplier and things like that. As you said, kind of your bread and butter. But how is this all made? I mean, what does your facility look like? You said it's over 100,000 square feet of what?
Well, it's a lot of the manufacturing with at this point very little area for our inventory to be put. It's crammed in there. We have plenty of inventory, but that being said, we continue to expand on our capabilities, manufacturing capabilities. So this new warehouse is intended to really be our stocking facility. We're going to kind of streamline automatic processes to kind of pick and pull the products efficiently, and help our warehouse guys out. But that being said, the majority of our existing footprints at this point are expected to be for manufacturing purposes. So we've got a number of different manufacturing processes. With UHMW, it's primarily a compression molded process, where obviously it's the heat and pressure that's formulating that resin, which with UHMW is like a fine powder, into the sheet that you would normally see within the market. And then ram extrusion for the UHMW rod material. Uniquely, Canada has a slightly different process with their UHMW sheet manufacturing, and that is actually extruded product. So it's a slightly different process, but it does give us some opportunities. That was one of the key things that we looked at when we were acquiring some plastics to make them Roechling Canada at this point. Is, some of the things that didn't yield well for us out of what we call our mega sheet or 8 foot by 20 foot press, like 5x10s and 4x12s. They weren't ideal because they didn't always leave us with the best drops that we have as standard inventory items. So with the processes that we have up in Canada, allow us to kind of utilize and be much more efficient in some of those odd sizes, as well as just obviously be able to provide some additional products into the market for sure.
So they're doing extrusion on the UH up there, and you're doing compression in North Carolina?
Correct.
What's the difference
Correct.
between the two of those?
Well, I mean, the basically the typical extrusion process for UHMW, and I can use my hands here a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
Ram extrusion is basically you have a hopper, and you have the resin in that hopper, and it's pulling back, and that allows the resin to drop, and then it pushes it forward, and that's where the heat and the pressure come from there. With compression molded, it's obviously going to be poured into the mold, and then the heat and pressure are going to force it down there. When you're talking about typical wear properties on a flat surface, neither one would necessarily outperform one or the other. They're pretty much in line with one another. When we get into the issues of understanding the applications, and it's one of the key things that we try to tell our customers often is understanding how this product is going to be used in the upcoming application. If it's going to be a process where you're bending the product, either a cold bend or sometimes a heat bend application or process, typically the compression molded product would be better at that, because where you have an extruded product where it's being squeezed through a die, those areas where it's actually coming through the die can be weak points in a bending process. So you may see some stress fractures at times, or at least discoloration because of the elongation of the polymer itself. So it's not in all cases. It all obviously depends on the process that they're doing it, but in most cases you can utilize either extruded or compression molded without an issue. But again, there are certain applications that we need to know about that we can certainly make it a point to produce the product accordingly in the right process on our end.
Wow, you taught me something there, because we did have some parts that we were bending out of UHMW, heat bending. We put it on a bar and then bend it. And we had got some sheet from a different supplier, and it must have been extruded because they started to break. We had, the fractures you were talking about.
Mhm.
So that's really interesting. I had no idea that was the case.
Yeah.
Now that I do, hey,
Typically, yeah, typically you'd see it and be where you're going to start seeing it is probably fairly linear where those cracks are occurring.
right.
And that's basically the areas that material is being squeezed through a die. The thing about UHMW is it never fully liquefies. So you're almost kind of squeezing Play-Doh through the holes. A lot of other products will primarily liquefy, so it's not a big deal. Like high density and polypro, they're going to be extruded that way. But UHMW never fully liquefies. So those areas where it squeezes through the die, then it forms back together. Those are weak points in elongation.
Hmm.
So that bending aspect can be a difficult process and cause some problems if you are bending that product that is extruded.
Wow.
I
That's
wouldn't
something I
I
never
wouldn't
would
buy
have
from
thought
that
of.
other I wouldn't buy from that other manufacturer ever again.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I just know I don't know if we had other sheets sitting around, but it was just like all of
Yeah.
a sudden we've been making the part for 20 years. And all of a sudden we just out of one batch, all of a sudden it's like, why are these breaking? Every time we go to bend them, they're breaking. And it's like this makes absolutely no sense. We got some more material in from you. Problem completely went away, and I just it was fascinating to me.
Yeah.
What about weldable UHMW? Have never gotten into it. Do you guys have a weldable UHMW? And I think that those get used a lot, at least from what I've seen in those truck bed liners. I've never gotten into that, but I've had people call and ask about it. It's just not something I've ever really gotten into. So, might as well use this as an opportunity to get educated on it.
Yeah. So majority of standard UHMWs, say your naturals and your reprocessed materials, most of them can all be welded. It would be a butt weld, which we have that capability up in our Canadian facility, to basically take the sheets and basically fuse them together, generating the heat and the pressure within that. Typically, it's a Wagner welder that we use,
Yeah, we've got one.
and that heat and pressure will allow it to formulate together to where you typically have 95% or better physical properties on that weld as you would the standard sheet. So yeah, that is something that we are able to do. We will take those and weld them together and obviously coil those up for typically for truck bed liners.
So
Um,
they're not like hand welding this or anything when it gets into the truck. I mean, there's obviously a lot of angles and stuff going on there. I mean, I've never even butt fusion welded it, and yeah, we've got a Wagner butt welder as well, so we could do it. Um, Never knew that that was the way to do it, honestly. But I swear there's some people that say they're hand welding it. I've never seen that done. It looks super dangerous because anytime I've seen somebody try to do it, it's like a plume of black smoke that looks like it might kill you.
Yeah, yeah. You normally wouldn't see that as on a larger scale. I mean, a lot of times, if it's necessary to fix a weld in the field, they may utilize that process to fix the weld temporarily. But certainly, you're not getting the same pressure and performance from a weld from a hand welder.
Right. And we've also, we've been using a lot of your guys' weldable materials as well. So you've got your high densities. I know we've used a lot of your high density and copoly. We're a big fan of using copoly for fluid holding tanks and stuff. Just seems like the welds stick a little bit better. What all do you carry in the sense of like weldable? I know I've used like Euro gray and things like that. What do you have for weldable materials there? If somebody wanted to make enclosures or fluid holding vessels or whatever it is that they might want.
Yeah, so ultimately, I mean, you mentioned a couple of them, but our high density products, which you're looking at standard natural high density and virgin black high density, but we also make the pipe grade high density, which is a UV stabilized product, used in a lot of drainage systems, manhole covers. The name pipe grade comes because it's the same resins that you see those corrugated pipes along the roads before they're
Right.
putting in the drainage systems. So a lot of times the manhole covers and flanges and all that is you'll take our product and actually weld that to those products for end caps, and so on and so forth. So that's where that product name comes from. But as well as homopolymer and copolymer, natural and black polypropylene, as well as what you mentioned, our Euro gray material, which we also manufacture in a heat stabilized version as well, which can elevate the temperatures that would normally be about 180 to 200 degrees in standard polypro, can elevate it to 229 to 239
Oh wow.
Fahrenheit in
I didn't know that.
temperatures. So yeah, so we manufacture those products, and obviously we've expanded on our extrusion processes here. We typically in Europe we're one of the leading extrusion or sheet extruded material providers to the market. Here in the U.S., we were primarily focused on UHMW and then some of our mechanicals and high performance materials, but we were certainly asked and leaned on here in this market to expand on our extruded sheet processes. So over the past 4 years at this point, we've added two additional 10-foot wide extrusion lines that can each produce 40,000 pounds or more a day when we're manufacturing the products from them. So, and they can range anywhere from 1 millimeter up to inch and a half thick in that extruded product.
1 mil too, huh?
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. So this is a little bit of a change in topic, but a lot of manufacturers, the thing that sets them apart, at least from when I've toured the facilities, is the quality aspect.
Hmm.
Um, some of them they've got various, I don't know what is it? How you test rod? Is that like an ultrasound or something like that, where they're checking for like centerline porosity and things like that? What has Roechling got that kind of sets you guys apart in terms of like quality? I mean, I've noticed a big difference, at least in your UHMW from other manufacturers. Your end curl doesn't seem to exist at all, and it seems way more consistent than other. What are you doing to make sure that you're providing a product that's above what the others are offering? Because it does seem as though you do.
Hmm. Well, obviously, quality is of the utmost importance for the products that we're sending to the market. We want people to be confident in the products that they're getting. We have certainly continued to revamp and grow in our quality assurance program. We're not only ISO 9001, but we're also ISO 13485 certified, which was brought along several years ago because of our medical grade products that we're manufacturing. So that's really kind of forced us to kind of take a look at our quality performance and assurance needs for the market, to allow us to improve not only on the medical grade products, but certainly improve on all of our processes across the board. So we obviously know that we're only as good as the product we give to the market. So we obviously have a quality department that's analyzing and looking at any of the products that we're manufacturing. We're running tests. So we've got a lab up in Canada to run tests on materials to make sure that particular run, especially if we're trying to modify it in any way, shape, or form, is giving us the physical properties that we expect. You kind of mentioned end curl on products. I mean, we have different processes that we know may generate some end curl and others that will reduce some of that. So when we talk about thinner materials that we can make here in North Carolina, as well as we can make up in Canada, it's a preference to make it up in Canada if we can, because of their skiving capabilities and the different process that they use to skive their material versus what we do here, helps to eliminate a lot of the end curl that you would see on a typical skive sheet.
Why don't you expound
But
on that a little bit? Skiving. I mean, I know what it is, but for everyone else who might be watching this that doesn't understand what skived material is, what is that?
Yeah, skive materials basically is, you could, I guess the best way to reference it would be to kind of imagine a cheese slicer. You got a big hunk of cheese, a big block of cheese, which is in this case UHMW, and you're kind of taking small slices off of that thicker chunk of cheese. And so ultimately here in North Carolina, we'd have a process where we have to press the billet, and then that billet would end up going into an oven, and then it would go to our skiver. And that process on that skiver doesn't necessarily keep that sheet flat. It almost actually kind of bends it up. But we can give you a lower minimum on the process doing it that way than
Mm-hmm.
we would with the process up in Canada. In Canada, we would extrude the billet, the thicker piece, and take that hot billet and immediately take it over to our skiver. And in that case, we're basically taking that and it goes down on a vacuum table, and it allows us to keep that whole thing flat the whole time as it's just taking off that top surface. So yeah, basically, I mean, the easiest way to kind of look at skiving is kind of like a cheese slicer, depending on how you want to cut it. It's basically taking thinner sheet off of a much thicker billet,
Hmm.
and giving you the thinner sheet that you're looking for.
Yeah, that's a. I've always found that to be kind of an interesting thing because not all plastics are done that way. A lot of the extruded ones, they're kind of extruded
They're
at their
extruded at
size, and so yeah, the skiving is an interesting process that I wasn't familiar with up until, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, but it's interesting. So I mean, kind of wrapping things up here. I mean, what else you've got to say about Roechling? I guess where can we find you guys? Where maybe look you up, that type of thing. Obviously, you've got a lot of distributors throughout the country, right? I think that's primarily how you guys are going to market. No, that's fine.
All right, hold on.
Um, So you got distributors all over the country. I know I'm one of them, Aeromat Plastics in Minnesota, but you've got them all over the place. Where else can we find information about Roechling?
Yeah, so we would have our overall website, which would be roechling.com. And just for
How do you
reference,
spell it?
you can't put the umlaut over the O, so you would spell Roechling Roechling .com. And that would take it to the full realm of who Roechling is globally with all of the industries and the industrial divisions that we have. If you're looking for simply Roechling Industrial, which would be the products that we would provide here, it would be Roechling-Industrial /US.
Right on.
And again, Roechling with an Roechling. That's a pretty common question. Why do we put the E in there when they don't see it anywhere else? So
Just to
you
get
have
us to say it correctly?
try. I don't even know if I always say it correctly.
Yeah, I hear Roechling. I've heard a lot of different versions of your guys' company. I just go with Roechling and think,
You gotta have a little bit verklempt sound there.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's not
Roechling.
for us Americans. We don't know how to say that. We're trying to figure it out still.
But you can also follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook. There's a lot of good information that we like to post, especially in times like this. We have pre-recorded webinars that are focused on what we call COVID items that we're seeing moving, products that we're seeing of ours that are moving in the market, certain applications, and just webinars about some of our proprietary products, like we talked about Lubex and the detectables, and just how you can utilize some of our capabilities that are unique to us, like our mega sheet, our 8 foot by 20 foot mega presses to optimize your yield. So we like to stay active. We certainly we've improved on that. We've got a young group of marketing people at this point that are becoming much more active on social media than what we ever have been before, and we've definitely seen some gains there, and we'll continue to see that grow for our side of the business as we've already seen the benefits of doing so.
It's kind of crazy now, Matt. I feel like it wasn't that long ago that you and I were just like the kids in the industry, and now we're saying we've got young people doing things for us.
I don't feel young anymore.
No, no, me either. Me either. Well, Matt, hey, thank you so much for doing this. As you're the first guy on, really appreciate it, and hopefully this helps a lot of people out if they have questions. Obviously, look you up online. They can just Google Roechling as well. I did that before this. You're the first one there, hopefully. If you have any needs, I think that look you up on LinkedIn or look me up at Aeromat. If you're up in Minnesota, I'm happy to take care of you. Aeromatplastics.com. So that's that.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for the time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.